Ladles and jelly spoons, welcome back to Badgerworks. Today, this. This is an air pump, a miniature air pump, and hopefully today we're going to do something quite interesting with this. So let's get on with it. Right, I brought the camera in a bit closer so you can see what I'm looking at. But basically, as I said, this is an air pump. It's a 5-volt miniature air pump. Now, there's a bit of a story here, as there often is with things that I've made, so follow me. I have been clearing out my workshop lately because it's an absolute bloody pigsty, and I can't find anything. And while I've been cleaning up, I've been finding all kinds of interesting things, and one of the things I found was this. In fact, I found a bag of these. Now, these are air pumps I bought a long time ago for a project that I ended up going in a different direction with, and I didn't use them. But it gave me an idea when I found these. And basically, I found out afterwards that when I thought I was being really clever, that other people have done exactly the same thing. So I'm kind of reinventing the wheel here a little bit. But it gave me an idea. Now, long-time viewers of the channel will know that I have a bit of a thing for miniature smoke machines. And it occurred to me that the most awkward thing about building a smoke machine is building the heating element. Now, you've seen in the past I've built smoke machines using vape coils, and the trouble is they are finicky, they're difficult, they burn out, it's difficult to know how much fluid is in them and things like that. And so I had an idea. Now, for the vapors among you, you'll probably recognise this. This is a CE4 clearomizer tank. Now basically the way this works is there is a little coil in the end here, and I don't know if you can see that very well, but there's a wick that goes through on each side. So you fill this thing up with fluid, you screw it onto a battery, and in the end there, I don't know whether you can see that, but hang on, let me get a pointy thing. This will do. So in the middle there is the positive contact, and then the rest of the case is the negative contact. And basically the way this works is you screw it onto a battery like this. This is an old battery. The reason this is an old battery is because the threads have gone on it. So this doesn't work very well. But basically the idea is you screw it on like that. And when you press the button, this battery's off actually. So when you press the button, it energizes the coil and heats up the fluid inside. And then you suck on the end of it. Stop laughing at the back, and you suck the smoke out. And I thought, what if there was a way to automate the lung bit of this? And that's where this air pump comes in. So what we're going to do today is try and turn this into a miniature smoke machine. So let me show you where I've got to so far. Right. This is a bit of a rat's nest, I know, but you know, it does what we want it to do. So what we've got here is an 18650 battery. It's in a 2 battery holder because that's what I have. I don't have any single ones. I've actually got some on order. And then we have the air pump, and then we have the switch. Now you'll also notice there's another battery connector here. I'll get to that in a minute. So for the purposes of the proof of concept, as it were, I decided to use an 18650 because it's very powerful. So on the end here is a connector, and it's basically one of these. Now this is these are sold by various people, and it's basically so you can make your own vapes, and that's kind of what we're doing here. So basically this part here is what the tank screws onto, like so, and then this bit here connects to the battery, and that's the real problem. We'll get to that in a minute. So what I've done here, let's just put that to one side because we're going to need that, is I have modified this one, and hopefully you can see that, but it basically has, oh sorry, it's a bit of a rat's nest. So here we have the positive terminal in the middle, so the bit in the middle is positive, and then the rest of the case is negative. And there's a little rubber like grommet that separates the two. So what I've done is I've soldered a wire to the inside and a wire to the outside, And if I screw one of these tanks on, this is just filled with vegetable glycerin, which is why it's a slightly odd colour, because I actually used this to preserve some plants a while ago. But anyway, that's beside the point. Now, if I put this in here, like that, and I don't know where you'll be able to see this, I might have to change the background, I don't think you'll be able to see it. Let me just put something behind this so you can see it, 1 second. Right, this might work a bit better. My camera really doesn't like black background, so I apologise if it goes a bit funny. But basically what we do is we put that on the end of there like that, and then we press the button, and it makes smoke, you see. Anyway, so there you go. So that's basically how it works. And now it makes quite a lot of smoke actually. This is an 18650, as I said, and the trouble is it's a bit big for my purposes. Now we will be using this later, but for now, the reason I added this because I wanted to try some different things. So the first thing I did was I took this battery here. This is a 900 milliamp hour lithium polymer battery. So if I plug this into here, now this is a 3000 milliamp hour battery. This is an LG 18650. These are really, really good. They're also really expensive. So there's this one, and I can do the same again. So if I pop that in there, and you will notice immediately the change in tone. So it still works just as well, but it's obviously not nearly as powerful as the 18650. Now, we can go a step further. Oh, let's get that out of there, put that to one side. And this is a bit of a monstrosity, I know, but what we've got here is a 300, focus, come on, there we go. So that's a 350 milliamp hour lithium polymer battery, but you see how small it is. That's 4 millimeters thick. And this is all a proof of concept, so nothing's actually connected properly. I've also got a charging circuit on there. So if I now plug this into here, like that, and we do the same again. Oh, now, again, listen for the change in tone. So, not nearly as powerful, but it is still working. So this gave me an idea, and it led to a bit of 3D printing and a bit of design. So let me just put all this to one side for a second. And now what we have is this. So this is something I quickly 3D print. Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, the missus is here. Say hello, missus.
Hello, missus.
Oh, we're doing Chinese.
Yeah.
Cool. Having Chinese for dinner. I'll have a 47.
Yeah.
23.
Yeah.
And 156.
Do you not want
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you. Right. Anyway. Oh no.
Love you.
Love you too. So what I've done here, let me bring the camera in a bit closer so you can see what I'm talking about. Hang on, give me a sec. Right, so what I've done here is I've 3D printed a little case. And this is very, very much a proof of concept, so I don't know if this is going to work or not. But basically, I've just popped a few bits in there, and I made this in Tinkercad, and it's basically just a series of blocks. So what we've got here is obviously our little battery that sits in the bottom. We've got a switch in the top here, and I've got a charging circuit just plugged in there. And what I've done is I've added a few little bits, like I don't know if you can see it or not, but down in the bottom corner there's a little block, and that basically holds that in place to stop it moving backwards and forwards. This block here stops it from tilting, and also will be somewhere to put a screw in to put the lid on when we eventually have a lid for this thing. So the battery slides in here like that, and then our pump fits in here. Now this is the clever bit, or it might be the clever bit, or it might not. So obviously I need to get the where's the other bit? That's the connector for the tank, and that goes in here like that. Now this is the hopefully clever bit. So this is all black. I should have printed a different colour. But what we've got in the bottom here is there's a little block you can see, and that block is actually, it's not hollow, but it basically has a tube printed in it. So the air will come from the pump down here and then out this way. That's the plan. The thing that I'm not sure about is whether it's actually going to work. Because the air has to make a very sharp 90-degree right angle, come down to the end, do 90 degrees again, and then blow out through here. We'll see if it works. I could have made it bigger, but the idea is I was trying to make this as small as possible. And one of the things that's actually determined the size of this is if I take the tank here, when that's screwed on, that is the same length as the whole thing. So it's very compact. That's the idea. I do have a plan to make a bigger one later. We'll see that a bit later on. But for now, this is what we've got to try and work with. So basically, the main thing here is the end of this has to sit flush on this little block to make a good seal, or to make any kind of seal. Now, that's fine. As it is now, it works perfectly well. But I have to attach wires to it. Now, as I mentioned before, the middle bit here is the positive, the rest of the case is the negative, and then they are separated by a rubber grommet. So I have to solder wires onto this in such a way that this bottom part stays flat, because it actually, if you look at this one, let me just bring this one back in quickly. Oh, and what I did here was I actually drilled a hole in the end of it and put the wire in and then soldered it, and it's a bit of a lash up. And I did the same here. That's fine for this. It won't work for this case. So I've got to try and figure out a way to solder the wires onto this, basically so they're coming off sideways. And I think what I'm going to do, and that's why I've got this little Dremel tool thing, is I'm actually going to cut a slot in the side of this so that I can solder the wire to the side. Now, the problem is, it would be a lot easier if I could actually get this middle bit out, but the trouble is I can't. And I tried it with a different one and I ended up ruining it. So let me show you those bits so I can show you what I'm talking about here. Hang on. So this is one that I dismantled. So I took this bit out. Now the problem is, you see the end of this does not look like the end of that. And that is because this has should have this flat bit on the end, and it hasn't, and it's because when I knocked it out it basically snapped off. So the problem is you've got a flange on this side and you have a flange on this side. If you look in the end of here, you can see there's a recess where that flange goes. Now I realised after I'd taken this apart, if you actually look there, you can see this thing is made in two pieces. And I think the way it works is you take the two pieces, you put them in from either end and then press them together. And of course then they don't come apart, which means it won't come out without breaking it. And the problem is now, is this is not long enough to touch the bottom of the tank and make a contact. So that's that. But what I'm going to try and do is mill out the side of this, or grind out the side of this, so I can get through to this middle bit and solder a wire onto it. He says, with supreme confidence. So let's give that a go and see how this works. This is only very soft metal, so hopefully it will work. Oh, right. Oh, actually, where are my safety glasses? Where have I put them? There they are. Because what I don't want to do is have bits of this flicking off and hitting me in the face. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it's working. Oh, God. We're getting there, about halfway through. Let me grind this out and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. Right, so I have ground that out and I've removed part of the rubber gasket. So I think what I'm going to try and do now is drill a hole through the end of here. Let me get a drill and see if I can do this. So this is a 0.5mm drill bit. And so this metal is very soft, so it's not difficult to drill. Of course it would work better if the drill bit wasn't completely blunt, but this is the trouble with these little tiny drill bits, they go blunt very quick. But what I actually want is that hole a little bit bigger, so I think what I'm going to do, this is a 0.75mm. Let's see if I can get that in there. There we go. Hopefully you can see that, but I've just drilled a little hole through the end of there. And so now, let's get a bit of wire. Because this wire is 0.75mm in diameter, so just trim the end of that. And I've made this wire way too long, but that's so I can cut it down if I need to. Better too long than too short. And so that will now fit through there like that. Now obviously I don't want it to go right through because that will block it up, but it's just basically I want it to go through about that much so that I can solder it in place. And that's what we're going to try and do next, which is going to be fun. Right, I think while we're waiting for that soldering iron to warm up, because what I also need to do is attach the negative to basically anywhere on the outside here. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole through this thread if I can. About there, I think. It's kind of awkward having these wires so close together, but it will make life a lot easier trying to fit it all in here. Right. Now let's see if we can solder these wires on without sticking everything together. It'll be fine. What could possibly go wrong? Right, let's put this in. I'll try and do this under the camera, but I make no guarantees that I'll actually be able to, because this is like trying to redecorate your house with the letterbox. Right. Bit of soldering paste on there and on there. If this works, it'll be a miracle, but we'll see. Solder would probably help. Right, now let's pop that in there and see if we can right, I think that's got it. Because I have kind of blocked up the middle here, but I can clean that out afterwards. But what I want to try and do is get some on the outside as well. Right, that's got it. But you see what I've done there. Oh, it's quite difficult to get in front of the camera. See, there's some on the face here, and I don't want that, but I can get rid of that in a minute. Right, let's get a piece of black wire. See, what you've got to be careful of when you're doing this is that not to melt the rubber grommet in between, but we'll see how it goes. Right, again a bit of solder, and we will pop that there, and okay, I think we've got it. That went a lot better than I hoped it would, to be honest. So we'll let this cool down and then we'll clean it up a bit and see how well the wires are actually attached. Right, so I've got that all soldered up. What I need to do now is just quickly test it and make sure it still works. I think the easiest way to do that is to plug one of these tanks on and see if we can hear it fizzing when it right, so that goes like that. Yeah, that's working. Hopefully you could hear that, but basically you can hear the coil fizzing. So that is definitely working, so that's good. So now hopefully, he says, the next step is just a question of assembly. Right, let's just get all this out of here for a minute. Because what I've got to do now is get this in here, try and get these wires through. I might actually have to, where that hole is, I might have to cut a slot or something to get the wires through. But what I did, you can't actually see it, but I actually, the inside of this hole, so this hole here, the inside of it is actually chamfered to give it more space inside. So let's see if this works. Like I say, I think I'm probably going to have to cut a slot in it to get the wires in, but we'll see. Because what I don't want to do is put too much strain on the wires, because I don't want to break them. See if I can just get that to twist a little bit. That will go in. There we go. Oh, look at that, it went in. Oh, perfect. Marvellous. And that is indeed sitting flat on the surface. So the next thing we need to do is figure out where these wires are going to go, because I don't want them getting in the way of the pump. I think what I might be able to do actually is if I poke them down there like that, and poke that one down there like that, and then we can come over the top of this and tweezers, there we go, pop that in there like that, pop that like that. Yeah, that'll work. And that keeps it out the way of the pump. Right, so what I need to do now is that actually going to be long enough? Oh, that is just long enough. That was close. So this is why I cut it too long, you see, because this one needs to go to the switch. So what we need to do is solder this to the switch, solder the battery wires to the charging circuit, and wire in the pump all at the same time. Fun. Yeah, that's not the end of the world. So the negative from the connector and the negative from the battery need to go onto the charging circuit, and then basically we need to take a wire from the positive to the switch, and then this needs to go on, and also the positive to the pump needs to go on there as well. Yeah, so I should have to think about that for a second. Right, let's wire this in. Actually, what I might do before I do anything else is I might actually glue this thing on with some epoxy before we go any further. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I'll mix up some epoxy and I'll glue this on, and then once that's dry we'll do all the soldering. Right, that glue's dry now, so what we've got to do is basically solder everything together. So what we need to do is connect the negative to the pump, to this, and to the battery. So let's get a bit of wire for that. Now, this is going to be the fun bit. Let's take this out of here for a minute. There we go. Let's take that out of there. Now, we need to join these two together. Let's get that out of the way for a second. And we need to connect this one as well. So again, whenever you're cutting these wires off, just be careful that you only cut one at a time so you don't short out the battery. And this control wire we don't need, so we'll get rid of that. Now, and then that needs to go into there, like that. We don't want to put it through too far because I don't want it to get in the way. Oh, this is going to be fun. that's that one. So now we need to connect the battery wire to the positive. We also need to run a wire from the battery to the switch. That's that. Now, okay, so we need this onto the switch. We need a positive from the pump to the switch and a positive from the heater coil to the switch. Right, so we'll put a positive wire onto the pump first. That one's positive. So we'll just pop that through there. And that goes like that. Okay, let's get this out of the way for a minute. We don't need that anymore. Right, so let's put this back in first. Oh. That goes in like that. Then, oh, let me put, I'll be careful not to touch any of these wires. The battery goes, in underneath there, like that. Okay. Right, now, so that one needs to go to that side. So let's cut that down and strip it. Solder that onto there like that. Okay, now pump goes in there, so we want that goes through there. That goes on there like that. And now these two go together. Like that. Now this is going to be the fun bit. So I want to get the pump in like that. And now we've got to get this through here without touching the other contact if we can help it. Right. Bit of a rat's nest, but never mind. Okay. that should, when we press the button, do something. And it does. That's fantastic. Now, the real test is it actually going to work? Now, if we put this on here, this is where we see if this thing's actually going to work or not. Right, fingers crossed. Yeah, that's what I thought might be the problem. I don't think it's blowing enough to... It is working because I can hear the pump going, obviously, and I can hear this going, but it's not blowing enough air through to actually operate. Let's just run a little drill bit through there and make sure there hasn't any glue got caught. It doesn't feel like it. That seems alright. I think there's just not enough airflow. That's right. Let me have a little play with this and see if I can figure this out. Right, so I have discovered the problem, and unfortunately I don't think there's anything I'm going to be able to do about it. What's happening is the tanks have a tendency to leak, and what's happening is fluid is going back down through the vent hole and blocking this up, and the pump doesn't have the strength to, or the airflow to push the fluid out of the way. So if you clean it out meticulously, it will work for a few seconds and then it will stop again. So unfortunately, yeah, this is a bit of a bust, but all is not lost, because I have redesigned it slightly. It's slightly bigger, but not by much, about, you know, half an inch or so, half an inch, something like that. But what I've done, and I'll demonstrate it first and then I'll show you how it's changed. So firstly, I've added this switch on the side. So this is an isolator switch. So when you turn this on, and now, as you can see, that is way more effective. Now let me pop the cover off quickly and I'll show you why it's different. So if I take the cover off, you can see I have moved the pump, so it is now directly in line with the tank and it works much better, which has also given me the space to add the switch. I wanted to put one in the other one, but there simply wasn't room. Now in theory you could, because of the extra space, use a bigger battery, but again, this was more an exercise in using what I have, so that's what it is. Now you'll notice that the motor is not secured, it is kind of flapping around in there, but what I've done is on the case here, you can see that there are two little pins, and what happens is when you put the lid on, they actually catch the pump and hold it in place. So there you go. Now before we wrap this up, there's one other little thing. You'll like this. I've also made this. I couldn't resist it. So this is a bit of a beast, as you can see. It has two tanks, it has two pumps, it also has two batteries. I'll take the cover off in a minute and show you, but let me just show you how it works first. So isolator switch, same as before. So There's one. There's the other. And of course there's also so it's quite noisy. But again, let me take the cover off quickly and I'll show you what's going on in here. Right, so it is a rat's nest in here, and I'll explain why in a second. But as I said, we've got 2 pumps, battery charger, and 2 18650s. Although the astute among you will notice, if you look down inside there, they're actually wired in parallel, not in series. So basically what this is doing is giving, both batteries are giving us 3.7 volts. So you're basically getting double the amperage, but the same voltage as a single battery. That's why the 2 motors can run just as well as one. So yeah, it is a bit of a rat's nest in here, and that is because I actually changed the pumps. Because originally I was using these pumps. Now this, as you can see, is a bigger pump. And I was working on the assumption that bigger pump meant more airflow. No. I don't know what these pumps were originally designed for, but there is virtually nothing coming out of them. They're brand new, but they're just very, very low pressure pumps. So yeah, it is what it is. So I had to basically rewire it and add the other pumps. But as you can see, it works very well. So I think we can call this little experiment a success. I'm very pleased with how these have come out. It was a bit of fun just to see if it would work more than anything, and I think you'll agree that it has worked admirably. So yeah, I think we can wrap this up now. Oh, actually one more thing very quickly. There was actually something else I meant to mention. You can actually modify these if you want. If you want to, you know, like plumb the smoke somewhere else. I've got this bit of pipe here, which I think I showed you earlier, but if you put that, and I'll just hold it on, but oh, if I can get it in place. It's not really the right size, unfortunately. So as you can see, you can, you know, you could put a fitting on the end of these and actually, you know, run the smoke into a diorama or something. So anyway, let's wrap this up. So yes, here are our finished articles. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It was just a bit of fun, really. It's come out well. I'm quite impressed with how these have come out, and they're not particularly small. I've made way smaller smoke machines than this before, but these are quite nice because they're completely self-contained. And also, as I mentioned previously, the most difficult part of a thing like this is getting the heating element and everything right. And so with this, that's all done for you. And when the coil burns out, which they inevitably do, you just unscrew it, throw it away, put another one on. So it just makes life a little bit easier. Now, yeah, it's kind of funny, after I started looking into this and I realised that loads of other people had already done it, but I thought I'd give it a go because basically I had the stuff to do it. So as ever, I would like to take a moment to thank my top tier patrons, Howard and Amy, for their continued support. Much appreciated, as indeed are all of my patrons. And if you wish to come and join us on Patreon, please do feel free. And of course, you're all welcome to come and join us in the staff canteen on Facebook. So yes, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this little video, given you a few little ideas perhaps. And I think the only way we can finish this off is to see if we can smoke the place out. Hang on. So, thanks very much for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye. Oh. That was silly.